Diablo II is jam-packed with formidable foes, but some of them stick out like a sore thumb. What's up, Creature here, and in this video, I'm going over every super unique found within the game. But first, what makes a super unique? In Diablo II, there are randomly generated boss packs. You know, think things like Putrid the Gort Eater, or some other wonderfully absurd name. But super uniques are a bit different. They're fixed to specific areas, meaning they always spawn in the game, no matter what. They also come with built-in fixed special attributes, known as modifiers, plus random ones that kind of fill in the blanks, rolling affixes just like generic boss packs you'll find. Super uniques keep their built-in affixes, and then gain 1 additional in Nightmare difficulty, and 2 more in Hell. Think things like Fire Enchanted, Extra Strong, Cursed, you get the idea. Some of these baddies really do stand out, either because they're prime targets when magic finding, or simply because you're just more likely to run into them during regular progression. Others, though, can be a bit forgotten, and generally are a bit more off the beaten path. So let's take a look at these monstrosities, where to find them, how dangerous they are, and what makes each one special. This is Creature Features on Diablo 2's super unique monsters.
Beware foul demons and beasts.
Brains.
The first unique most players run into is none other than Corpsefire. He's pretty iconic, even though he's just a zombie, residing in the Den of Evil, right outside of the rogue encampment in the Bloodmoor. It's the very first quest you do in the entire game, and one of the best since it gives you a free respec and 1 skill point per difficulty, so players never skip it. And in order to complete the quest to entirety, you have to kill Corpsefire. You have to cleanse the Den of Evil.
There is great evil here.
He can be tougher than he looks. He can really be the first monster not only that you run into, but also brick a build on Hell, depending on your build. His spectral hit modifier boosts his elemental damage. It also increases his resistance, and if he rolls something like Stone Skin, he can become immune to both physical and cold. Like most super uniques, he's always surrounded by a pack of brain eaters. I believe it's 7 to 8. He has pretty high health points, and like all Aquan zombies, is naturally cold immune. Every time I ran him for this video, he spawned with 4 modifiers and 7 minions. However, no matter how nasty his stats can roll, at the very end of the day, he's just a zombie. He's slow, shambling, classic brain eater.
Bishibosh! That's what to get up.
Not much further into the game, at the very first waypoint, in the Cold Plains, you'll find the fallen shaman known as Bishibosh. He's always surrounded by a horde of fallen, spawning somewhere in a large ransacked camp they've clearly claimed as their own. Bishibosh is a kind of lesser known.
Rakanishu!
He usually appears at the edges of the map, far from the main road, so players heading toward Bloodraven or the Stony Field might miss him entirely. He's really not much of a threat, even this early on. The only real danger you're ever in, if any, comes from the sheer number of regular fallen around him, which he will resurrect indefinitely. But honestly, any decently built character should cut through them like butter. Fascinatingly enough, Bishibosh, like Rakanishu and Kalenzo the Annihilator, seems to hold some rank within fallen society, as they'll often chant out their name before rushing into the heat of battle. It's almost like the fallen have a whole hierarchy. These dudes have clout, they have some sway, they got some motion, and these little red hellboys worship them to some degree and honor these powerful individuals, almost like maybe war chiefs or something. In Hell difficulty, all fallen are naturally fire immune, and I think that starts as early as Nightmare, if I recall correctly. This little Hellboy that's resurrecting his other fallen always spawns magic resistant and fire enchanted. Still in the cold plains, killing 2 birds with 1 stone is one of the deadliest early game enemies, being the super unique Dark Ranger Coldcrow. Everyone who's played Diablo II knows that archers are no joke. They're often responsible for serving your very first wings in a halo. They could catch you slipping for reals out of nowhere. And Coldcrow is no different. She hits very hard. She always comes with cold enchanted, so her arrows freeze upon contact. And this, combined with her being surrounded by minions also shooting at you, can quickly spiral out of control in favor for our girl Coldcrow. Especially if she gets like might or fanaticism when rolling Aura Enchanted. Her arrows slowing on hit also is really bad for melee players, as being slowed or frozen slows down your attack frames and of course your movement speed even further. This is of course if you don't have the cannot be frozen on an item like Death Sash or Raven's Frost Ring. Being tucked away in the cave level 1, a side dungeon that's not tied to any quest or game progression, so I guess unless you're farming terror zones or just exploring the map, most players don't even really know of her existence, which is probably why she from time to time catches some people off guard so early in the game. Just beneath the burial grounds where you kill Bloodraven lurks the bony menace Bonebreaker. It's a pretty metal name. Found down in the crypts, adjacent from the mausoleum, with the neighboring mausoleum being a what's called TC85 zone, meaning any item in the game can drop here, making it a hot spot for magic finding. Although where you find Bonebreaker down in the crypts isn't itself a TC85 area, the mausoleum is, but due to its close proximity of the mausoleum and the ease of generally finding Bonebreaker, he's become somewhat of a popular magic find target, even way back in the day, amongst fire builds, mainly fireball sorceresses. He also always spawns near a sparkly gold chest, so if you find him or the chest, one of the other are nearby. It's the cherry on the top. He always spawns magic resistant and extra strong, so nothing crazy. And like all skeletons, he's immune to life and mana leech outside of something like life tap. So melee builds should heed caution against all skeletons in this regard. Aside from that, he's just a pushover. He can maybe be a threat like anything else in the game if you teleport right on top of him with a really squishy sorceress, or if he rolls Stone Skin in your melee, he could be a slight inconvenience, but so can every other monster in the game. Otherwise, he's just another good old classic skeleton, waiting to be bone broken.
Rakanishu.
Our boy Rakanishu. The infamous super unique Carver is one of the most notorious early game killers, along with archers. Why? 2 words, lightning enchanted. The same deadly trait that made Act 2 Scarab so infamous, and it's built into him. He got them bolts, boy. He also comes spawned with extra fast, letting him blitz across the screen, covering ground like a missile. Speedrunners and veterans alike know all too well the threat this little demon right here possesses, because he's really dangerous when you're low level. When you're lacking lightning resistance, or perhaps you haven't really sunk that much into vitality, that burst damage can absolutely obliterate a character before you can even really react for a rejuvenation potion. To make matters worse, he guards the cairn stones in the stony fields, often surrounded by other mobs outside of just his. He's very dangerous if he spawns with something like Conviction, just adding to this little dude's lethality. His placement and speed makes him nearly unavoidable. Well, he is unavoidable in a way if you go about rescuing Big Daddy Kane, and that curiosity often leads straight into his grasp, straight into his lightning charged ambush. Deep in the dark woods stands the towering Treehead Woodfist, a unique Wendigo or gargantuan beast that is the roadblock when trying to obtain the Scroll of Inifuse off of the tree and ultimately rescue Big Daddy Kane. He's another pretty notorious early game threat thanks to his permanent extra fast and extra strong modifiers. Combine that just with his large size of him and his minions, and the speed and just mass of them can really easily body block players, causing a very swift death, especially for melee. I feel like a lot of the notoriety from this guy, just the danger of this dude, really just comes from the fact that Wendigos themselves are very dangerous. That's the type of monster this is. They have a naturally built-in crushing blow by default on certain attacks, like their double-fisted slam, similar to like Urders. And as their health drops, they move faster. It's actually a mechanic. It's a pretty rare mechanic in game. There's a couple other monsters that get this, but it can make retreating even more difficult or impossible at times. Old Woody, with his built-in speed, it just makes it even worse. They become more and more dangerous the more wounded they get. They really are like a wounded animal. These guys are Yetis. They were peaceful forest creatures within the Eastern Kingdoms, just chilling in their woods and shit, you know, eating mushrooms and berries, just vibing. But with Diablo corrupting the lands, leaving a wake of destruction in the process, they've turned restless and hostile.
I made many of the weapons and most of the armor that King Leoric used to outfit his knights.
Few fates are as grim as the fall of Tristram, and even darker is what became of Griswold. Once the beloved blacksmith of the now ransacked town, he roams aimlessly, sauntering around in its ruins as a slow, hulking, cursed undead abomination. He is a tank though. He's very slow moving, but hits like a Mack truck. He always comes spawned with the curse modifier, proccing amplified damage upon striking. He's also immune to knockback, making him even more of an unstoppable force from a physicality perspective. Though to be fair, pretty much no one rocks knockback except for bosons, and melee players avoid it like the plague. The game also has a unique sword, Griswold's Edge, which you can also get in the first game, which is another cool little throwback, and of course the Paladin set, Griswold's Valor, a really good set, all really reinforcing how impactful Griswold really was within the series. Within Diablo II, he's the most dangerous to melee characters who have to go mono with him, as he really does hit hard, and being in Tristram, you know, there's tons of boss packs that spawn, so there's that element to it as well. He can kind of be a problem for range builds, but not really, due to his slow, lumbering nature. But if he rolls something like extra fast, even though this doesn't Mighty Morph him into Usain Bolt by any stretch of the imagination, he can still keep up enough to cause some annoyance while kiting him around. Other than that, a swift mercy kill is perhaps the best option. Well, it is the best option in ending our former friend's agony. Anyone who's spent too much of their life grinding Diablo 2 knows the Countess. She's a go-to for rune farming, drops keys for Ubers, and is the target of the Forgotten Tower quest. Lore-wise, she's a nod to the infamous Countess Elizabeth Bathory, the alleged serial killer who, according to legend, bathed in the blood of young virgin women to stay youthful. You know, sounds like typical modern-day billionaire behavior to me. Gameplay-wise, corrupted rogues are naturally fast. Basically, they have extra fast modifier times 5 baked in. The Countess herself always comes with the fire enchanted affix, but she's not really like especially dangerous or threatening. She usually just kind of hangs back while her minions rush in first, and for whatever reason she kind of like lashes her weapon around at the air. She did this in the original Diablo 2 as well. Maybe she's just trying to intimidate you or something, but it really just ends up giving the player a bit of breathing room to dispatch her minions beforehand. When I typically farm keys with my Poison Necro or Whirlwind Barbarian, she's never really posed much of a problem for me at all. You can teleport into her room and then get scoped by some archers, which is probably the most dangerous thing, but even undergeared characters can handle her. If all goes to hell in a handbasket, you can kind of just utilize the doorways to funnel her minions out one at a time, making the fight even more manageable. She's iconic for her rune drops, incentivizing the oh so familiar loop of Countess runs, making her iconic but otherwise forgettable as the tower she resides in.
I shall make weapons from your bones.
In the dark, ravaged barracks lies the smith, I freaking love this smith. He's one of a kind, well, I guess two of a kind, since he and Hephaestus are the only overlord demons in the entire game. Another obvious throwback to the butcher from Diablo 1.
Fresh meat.
The overlords were an enemy type back then too, popping up as you got closer and closer to Diablo within the cathedral from the first game, being a generic enemy type that you actually see. Now, the butcher definitely takes the crown when it comes to infamy. He's just kind of like iconic. But the smith, I don't know, for me he's a strong second. There's just something about descending into the once prosperous barracks, formerly home to the Sisters of the Slightless Eye, now twisted, repurposed into a forge for Hell's Army. He is technically optional, you don't need him at all for progression, but most players will hunt him down for the Heraldric Malice. Charcy's trying to get her hands on that magical hammer.
Oh, thanks so much for returning the Heraldric Malice.
Yes, I'm a simp.
You are my queen. You are my queen.
She is our queen.
You will always be my queen.
Usually use this quest, hopefully get a GG 220 resistance circlet, though I've never really had that kind of luck. As a force himself, he is very formidable, especially in the early game, which is kind of like hallmark of a lot of these monsters, but he can be like the first wall, so to speak. He can be the first real hurdle. He's just a brute force melee demon that's exceptionally fast thanks to his extra fast modifier. He'll chase you down with that smithing hammer. He puts both those things to good use for sure. He's kind of like a perfect example of a mini boss that's both memorable and deadly, I guess depending on your build and setup. And for me, he's always been a lot more, I don't know, iconic than Hephaestus, the armorer, for whatever reason. Down in the jail is the bad dog, Pitspawn Fouldog. Another childhood favorite of mine that's kind of like burned into my brain for whatever reason. I remember this beastly dude vividly from way back in the day when I was a kid. I'm definitely wearing nostalgia goggles here, but I always loved the design of the Tainted. They just look like classic demons, like something ripped straight out of a religious text. Beastly, ghastly, and genuinely just terrifying.
No.
The main reason I remember this guy is I remember getting wrecked by this bastard down in the jail level. Him and his minions lobbed these orbs at me through the cell bars and I just got wrecked. The Tainted's orb spit attack is pretty notorious, and these guys are always regarded as pretty dangerous overall. These projectiles stack on top of each other very easily when they sync up, and it causes instant pain. He always comes cursed and cold enchanted, two very deadly modifiers, and the cold enchanted actually stacks on his orbs, and it actually stacks with his lightning damage, both on his ranged and melee attacks, making him even more deadly. And of course cursed is self-explanatory why, and it procs as well on his orbs. These ranged attacks make life hell for melee characters. It's really hard to close ground on large tainted groups, and even casters have to stay mobile. You can't just stand still and nuke brainlessly. You have to strafe around or you'll catch some balls to your face. And even though I feel like a broken record with spawning Aura Enchanted, if he comes with conviction, he's even more deadly because it just cranks up his elemental output into the danger zones. He's not really just scary because of his looks, it's the way all of his traits kind of come together to catch you off guard down in this dark Bastille. And up next we got Bone Ash. He's honestly a really intriguing skeleton. He's not like insanely deadly or anything, I guess, unless you're in hell with really bad poison resistance. But I guess I just kind of have a soft spot for poison themed enemies in games. They tickle my fancy for whatever rhyme or reason. I always find that the thing about poison in games, it's either stupid overpowered or stupid weak. It's rarely balanced in the middle. I guess that's just how dot effects tend to roll in game design, I suppose. It's hard to find that sweet spot. And although Bone Ash is just technically a skelly mage, I don't know, he's got some flair. He's always memorable to me. He always comes cold immune even on normal. He's always extra strong, cold enchanted, hence the cold immune, and magic resistant. I swear I've seen this dude immune to like 3 or 4 different elements before, depending on his roles. And he stands alone, no minions. That's actually very rare for super unique. I always wondered what the deal with this guy was. As soon as you walk into the cathedral, he kind of just comes up like, "Sup, bro?" A lone wolf going against the grain among a game of boss packs.
Moo, 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 moo.
The king of the bovines, the big old moo moo, the lovely lactaid, the mighty milk. All hail to the king. One of the original myths turned urban legend within the gaming community way back in the day, spawned the king itself. I personally have never been a huge cow runner. It is great for bases, high runes, and other goodies, especially skiller class grand charms. But I really do love that they actually gave the king a crown befitting of royalty within Resurrected. It would have been a crime not to. All hell bovines, not just the king himself, all have a chance of dropping the Cow King's hide armor set. A niche yet cool set to flex from time to time on Battle.net, and I think they upgraded it in a somewhat recent patch, probably like 2 or 3 years ago at this point now. The king himself always comes with lightning enchanted and magic resistant. Like everything else on this list, he sucks the most when he's R enchanted. With a nasty R to boot, this is also really bad just because of the density of bovines in the cow level. So if they get something like fanaticism, they're really dangerous. But he's just kind of a silly joke turned reality within Diablo II that makes him iconic, even to this very day.
My work here is finished.